Big news has dropped about Heat 2, the sequel and prequel to the 1995 classic cops and robbers film Heat, directed by Michael Mann and starring Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Now you might be wondering, wait, what? There's a Heat 2 coming out? Well, in fact, there is already a Heat 2 in book format, co-written by Michael Mann and Meg Gardiner, released in 2022, and ever since then, Michael Mann has been working on getting the novel turned into a feature film, with the man himself set to direct. The book acts as both a sequel and prequel to the original Heat, showing us earlier lives of characters like Neil McCauley and Chris Shiherlis as they form a crew and perform robberies, and also the earlier life of Vincent Hanna as he tracks down a vicious serial killer. And we follow what happens directly after the events of Heat, with Hanna trying to go after Chris. I've reviewed the book on the channel, and you can check out that video if you want to know more about the story and know what I think of it. Now, there's been various opinions on this project. Some might roll their eyes at yet another sequel to a beloved film, and will be cautious about Mann, feeling he's well past his prime and that he hasn't made a great film in decades. Others will be giddy with excitement that Michael Mann is going to go back to making a large-scaled, big-budget crime film with huge set pieces, and I kid you not, a $200 million budget. Whatever you think, and be sure to let me know your opinion down in the comment section below, this film is definitely happening, with filming set to commence next year. We're long past the rumour stage. Mann's script is pretty much ready, and we've had several names thrown around with regards to casting, with it being thought that Mann wanted Adam Driver to play a young Neil McCauley, i.e. Robert De Niro's character, and Oscar Isaac to play Hanna, the younger Pacino. Val Kilmer's character is reportedly being played by Austin Butler. But there's been some interesting developments. Leonardo DiCaprio, of all people, was rumoured to be circling the project back in August, and now, after quote-unquote weeks of negotiation, is apparently a part of the cast. This news follows reports that Warner Brothers was starting to get nervous about Heat's massive $200 million budget, with Mann managing to lower it to $170 million, and if DiCaprio, with his massive star power, does indeed sign on, it would ensure the studio gives the project the green light. Warner Brothers is also set to partner up with a streaming studio to offload some of the costs, with Apple being in talks to co-produce the film. It's hard to say who DiCaprio would be playing, given we don't exactly know what the story will be. For all we know, the movie might drop the sequel storyline and just be a prequel, or the other way around, or one storyline takes precedence over another. I don't know, I don't really see DiCaprio in either the Pacino or De Niro role, and when you consider he's in his 50s, just like the duo were in Heat, surely he's too old to be playing either of the two main characters. Then again, Leo is 2 years younger than De Niro was when he was in Heat, and the Neil storyline in the book takes place about 7 years before the film, so it wouldn't be a stretch for him to play Neil. DiCaprio does kinda look a little like Val Kilmer. I think he could play the Chris role, and given that Chris has his own extensive sequel storyline, this could make sense for him to play. And it would make things more interesting in my opinion, as DiCaprio wouldn't necessarily be the main star but part of a larger ensemble. It's worth pointing out that there's a key new character in the novel, Otis, a psychopathic gang leader of home invaders. I really didn't imagine DiCaprio's face as Otis when reading the book, but I guess that's also an option. Heat 2 is set to be a mammoth event. The film will have car chases and shootouts as you'd expect. The book has several large dramatic set pieces, and with the cast Mann is looking to put together, clearly he wants the film to be big. Reportedly, Mann is also ditching his signature modern digital cinematography for this one, meaning Heat 2 will be the first Mann film shot on film since The Insider. I find the DiCaprio news really interesting. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the guy, as I've talked about in a previous video, but he's given some fantastic performances over the years, and crucially, he very rarely makes a bad film. In fact, I was kind of scratching my head as to why he would join a project like this. Maybe he wants to add Mann to the list of high-profile directors he's worked with in his career, which is many of them. So what are your thoughts on DiCaprio and Heat 2, and what are your thoughts on the project in general? I can't deny that I would love for Mann to give us another crime movie classic, but it's been decades since he's given us a truly great film, and both the pessimist and realist in me can't see the movie living up to the original. I've seen all of Mann's feature films since Thief, and sorry to say, Much as I want him to pull off a George Miller Fury Road style comeback, I don't think he has the magic in him anymore. At best, I envisage a serviceable film, in which case I see audiences watching the sequel and asking, well, what was the point? Heat is a stone cold classic. Why make a sequel 30 years down the line? A book is fine, but a movie will constantly be compared to the original. Al Pacino, De Niro, Val Kilmer, Mann's style, the tone, the high sequences, the dialogue. Getting that right is tough, not to mention the added issue of actors playing already established characters. Hannah gets a lot of big moments in the book, like throwing a guy off a rooftop, and neither one of DiCaprio, Driver or Isaac will be able to match Pacino's fiery intensity. And I gotta say, I do think the sequel-prequel novel does have issues. It's a good book, sure, but it's not perfect. I see people raving about it all the time, and I know I can be a cynical guy, but who's going to be brave enough to admit the Chris storyline in Asia and South America is just kind of boring? Not to mention it feels like a mixture of Black Hat and Miami Vice, and the Home Invaders storyline is essentially an adaptation of an episode of the original Miami Vice series. The book also has huge coincidences and contrivances, like most of the main cast just happening to cross paths with each other at the same time. Also, there are some changes or revelations about characters that might rub people up the wrong way. You can hear about it in my review of the book. We need to remember, and by extension the filmmakers need to remember, that the shootouts and such were brilliant, but they weren't what cemented Heat into legendary territory. It was the characters. Hannah being consumed by his detective life, Macaulay being cold and calculating but lacking love and companionship, both characters coming to understand what drives each other. Add to that Pacino and De Niro facing off for the first time, and it's simply on another level. Can't this new film, given that it's going to be a completely new cast, just be a new crime film from Mann that doesn't have Heat in the title? A man can dream, I guess. Seeing as though we're talking about a new Michael Mann film, it's worth pointing out that Deadline have reported that Martin Scorsese's next film has been confirmed, also starring DiCaprio, and Jennifer Lawrence also. And it's a horror movie called What Happens at Night, which is none of the 10 or so movies he was attached to, including the Hawaiian gangster movie starring The Rock. Based on a book of the same name, the plot is as follows. The story is a dreamlike story of a married American couple who travel to a small, snowy European town to adopt a baby. They check into a cavernous, largely deserted hotel where they encounter an enigmatic cast of characters, including a flamboyant chanteuse, a depraved businessman, and a charismatic faith healer. Nothing is quite as it seems in this strange, frozen world. As the couple struggle to claim their baby, the less they seem to know about themselves and the life they've built together. Scorsese and DiCaprio tackled this kind of sleight-of-hand material in the hit adaptation of the Dennis Lehane novel Shutter Island. DiCaprio has also been weighing several projects, including Damien Chazelle's Evel Knievel biopic, but ultimately those projects went away and the pieces fell into place where the film has 3 Oscar winners above the line here, including Lawrence. That's pretty out there for Scorsese. It sounds like a David Lynch version of The Shining. It's definitely a return to genre filmmaking for Scorsese since Shutter Island. But this project is not one I'll be talking about extensively until we know the cameras are rolling, as Scorsese is simply attached to too many projects to get prematurely excited for one. So what do you make of these projects? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel and thanks for watching.